Dave Marsalek, Chairman, calling the meeting of today, June 4th, to order of the Ethics Board. I'll proceed by reading the minutes of the April 30th meeting as follows. The Taneytown Ethics Board met with members of the Chairman Steve Marsalek, Richard Ott, Linda Canfield, and Robert Hill. City Manager Wyprecht and Clerk Coleman were also present. Attorney Gullo was present virtually. Chairman Marsalek called the meeting to order at 3:30 p.m. Chairman Marsalek read the minutes of the April 23rd, 25 meeting. A change was requested to paragraph 5, motion to approve with correction by Hill, seconded by Canfield, and carried 4-0. Chairman Marsalek explained Rachel Miller was instructed at the April 23rd, 25 meeting to write an authority line on the building sign on East Baltimore Street because upon his inspection, the line did not appear. The board member Canfield explained that she did not realize when making a comment about the sign that there was not a regulation about the size of authority lines. Marsalek stated that although Mrs. Miller did comply with the request, his concern was that he felt Mrs. Miller had misrepresented herself when advising the board initially that the sign contained the authority line. He also stated Mayor Miller's comment that he encountered the same issue during his campaign in 2023, which was inaccurate. Marsalek explained he was advised to attach an authority line and did so where Mrs. Miller stated the line was there when it was determined that it was not. Chairman Marsalek recommended the mayor and city council amend the campaign finance section of the city code to include clearer and more specific regulations for campaign signage. The consensus of the board is to make the recommendation. Responding to board member Hill, City Manager Wyprecht explained the city code does not specifically regulate campaign signs, but the advice of the city attorney is that the district regulations could be applied. The interpretation currently is that the campaign signs are prohibited in every residential district in the city, although the city does not typically regulate campaign signs for local, state, or federal elections. The board members reviewed the third report of the campaign finance forms from Lydia Hardy, Nick Kalinok, Harry Mead, and Rachel Miller for the May 5th, 2025 election, and amendment by Lillian Hardy to her second report. Motion to approve the amendment submitted by Lillian Hardy by Hill, seconded by Canfield, carried 4-0. Motion to approve all candidate reports as presented by Canfield, seconded by Ott, carried 4-0. The next board meeting with the Ethics Board will be June 4th, 2025 at 3:30. Mayor Miller was in attendance and stated he was disappointed more emphasis was placed on the authority line than on the fact that one of the candidates unintentionally violated the self-funding affidavit. He stated the campaign finance law is overly complicated and not clear. Motion to adjourn at 4:15 p.m. by Hill, seconded by Canfield, carried 4-0. Respectfully submitted, Clara Coleman. Any additions or corrections? Got a motion to approve the minutes?
Make a motion we approve them. Second.
So carried. I guess we can proceed with the review of these candidate submissions. I would imagine that everybody probably already looked at them at home because they were sent to us. So I did not see any additions or corrections.
I have a question, though. For Harry Mead, he's put $50 in and he still carries it. What happens at the end of the election with any leftover funds? Do they just keep it in case they run again, or?
They can keep it. They would be required to, well, he is a council member currently, so he has to fill out a financial disclosure form anyway, but they have to keep filling out that form as long as they have funds in a campaign account.
Okay.
entertain a motion to approve the filings as presented.
I'll move to accept the filings as presented.
Carried. Now, the only other thing, I think, should we proceed on the other matter on the agenda?
There should be a closing statement up there for you to read.
Since you have a motion and a second, do you want to call for a vote real quick on that?
Oh, okay. Call for a vote on that to approve the filings as made.
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. So be it.
Now the closing statement.
And that?
Just that? Okay. Okay, the meeting is now adjourned. Adjournment to closed session pursuant to section 16-7C5 of the Taneytown City Code. A hearing is closed to the public. However, Ethics Commission may, in its sole discretion, open the hearing to the public if the subject of the complaint so requests. The Ethics Committee will now reconvene in open session. Will not? It
Not.
says.
That says not.
Okay, it does say not. I thought that was a mistake. Okay.
So if Mr. Tillman requested the session be open, it's up to the board if you wish to do it that way.
Fine with me.
Well,
Do vote?
that's fine. A motion to,
Precedent for this? Or- Whether
Our
to open or
experience
close.
is we've only had one, I don't know if we've had. So, we're in uncharted territory here.
And we don't have the city,
So
att-
I would.
and we don't have a city attorney to advise us.
I would request that there be a motion and vote to open the hearing to the public, just so we have it all in the minutes.
okay,
I'll
I have a
move to open the hearing to the public.
so be it. So it's open to the public. I guess on the issue of the water.
Yes.
For George's on York Street.
City manager, can you just outline for us what the purpose of this, what the outcome will be? Not the outcome, but what the format will be as far as a recommendation, and then where does it go from here? Before we begin.
So let's see, I'm trying to find the summary paragraph to read from here.
You hear my question, Jim?
I'm sorry, I will ask you to repeat the question.
Can you let us know what the format of this will be? Is it, not the outcome at the end of this, so we're going to take a vote? And then does it go to the city council? What is the procedure here, since this is uncharted territory. And my first here.
Going to consult the code book real quick.
Sent an email about it earlier. Did you?
I did not see that if it was today. I'm probably several hours behind on emails.
Chapter 16.
Sir, would you introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Christopher Tillman, City Councilman, City of Taneytown, owner of George's on York at 10 York Street.
Thank you.
So I have a prepared statement that was just issued to you folks.
Yes.
That I would like to read and read into the record. It was my intent to have council present. My attorney could not make it today, but rather than postpone the hearing since it had been advertised, what I would like to do today is read this statement and provide you with the information that you have. But I would like to reserve my right to appeal with counsel should the finding come back against me.
Read it, Mr. Tillman,
Okay,
that's fine.
we'll proceed.
All right. Because obviously I'm not an attorney, but
I think, Jim, you wanted to read something first before we start?
Well, just to finally try to respond to your
Tell us
question.
what the
and I think-
intended outcome of today is.
Right, is that we have to make a written finding based on the record of the hearing. And if, after the hearing, the commission finds that no violation of the chapter occurred, the complaint is dismissed. If the commission finds that the violation did occur, you can issue an appropriate order under this chapter based on the results. An investigation summary, except the identity of the complainant and witness shall be public information. So basically, we have to do a written decision. It needs to be made public. And you can, you can issue an order based on this chapter, which I'll have to find exactly what the limits of that are, but just like with other violations of the chapter, you can impose fines or corrective actions within the limits prescribed by the chapter.
Now, it's my understanding that we're here to determine whether or not an ethical violation is concerned. We're not here to litigate
no, sir.
the assessment of the,
No,
That is correct.
that is correct.
so we're all on the
This is-
same page.
Yes.
This is not about the money itself.
Yes.
Correct.
Strictly about, from my standpoint, clearing my name.
Okay?
That, and I appreciate your attention here this afternoon. I appear before this commission today to appeal the finding by the commission that I stand in violation of section 16-3, paragraph F of the Ethics Code, and that I have used the prestige of office to thwart the collection of a beneficial assessment called for in the Public Works Agreement dated September 21st, 2017. There are several points which need to be raised regarding this assertion. The first is that this matter dates back to 5.5 years before I became a councilman. and in all that time, and even in the time since, I have received no demand from the city for payment regarding the beneficial assessment and no official notice of the use that the use and occupancy remained open and outstanding. As I stated in my memorandum to this commission of May 28, 2004, over the course of years since this agreement was signed, I was a regular attendee at Planning Commission meetings and asked on multiple occasions why our project continued to appear on the agenda. I was given responses that ranged from the fire hydrant that was installed for the city as part of the project needed to be rotated, to something about the sidewalk easement along the alley, to we'll get back to you. At no time before this complaint was filed was I informed that the beneficial assessment was the issue at hand. The finding states that Councilman Tillman's position within City Council and the Planning Commission has been used to thwart the collection of the outstanding benefit assessment fee due to the city by inhibiting the city from implementing collection utilizing the customary enforcement mechanisms. Nothing could be further from the truth. I am, in fact, the only person in the city that has tried to bring this matter to a fair and just resolution. This commission has met in closed session regarding this matter, and without informing me that such meeting was occurring, and without providing for an opportunity to be heard at any time prior to this hearing. For their part, mayor and council have avoided the issue, and I have never been given the opportunity to present evidence to refute the perception noted in Exhibit E of the finding of this commission and in the letter from the city attorney, Exhibit F, that our water usage was on average exceeded 250 gallons per day, threshold that defines an equivalent development unit. This is not the case, as our average actual use over the past 5 years is 226.5 gallons per day. And even if you take out 2020 for the low occupancy due to the pandemic, it is still 237.4 gallons per day average over the past 4 years. This includes 2 quarters, the fourth quarter of 2021 and the first quarter of 2022, where usage was abnormally high for the winter period when our occupancy is lower. After getting the second abnormally high water bill, we started a thorough check of our toilets and found that 2 were indeed running and repairs were made. Water use subsequently returned to normal levels. If you insert the average use for those quarters, accepting out the anomalies, our average use dropped to 220.2 gallons per day without the running toilets. The assertion that we are using more than one equivalent development unit is simply incorrect, but apparently no one is interested in hearing that fact. I am aware that it has been the practice of the city to allocate the number of EDUs to a developer or business based upon projected use, with the understanding that that there could be an adjustment made depending upon actual use. In my case, no such opportunity was afforded. So if anything, I have been treated less fairly than an ordinary developer or an ordinary citizen or developer. To the idea that I have done anything to use my position on council to avoid payment, I defy anyone to show any correspondence, video record, or even conversation where I have asserted any such privilege. All I have ever asked for is a fair hearing, which to date I have not received. I recognize that it is not within the purview of this commission to rule on the issue of the beneficial assessment, and I am not asking this commission to do that. I am asking that it be recognized that I am and have been attempting to receive as much as a hearing on the matter to get just and equitable resolution, and that I have not made any attempt to use my position to conceal or in any way impede collection of a debt owed. I am asking only for the same consideration as any other citizen or developer. The complaint, as it was written, asks that the matter be resolved, or that as councilman and liaison, I take a short stay until it is resolved. To this point, I have been asked to do neither. I fail to see how inaction by others, dating back to our occupancy and opening in 2018, some 5 years before my election to council, becomes my ethical failing. Also, I note that I am no longer ex officio to the Planning Commission, making the complaint as presented to this commission moot. While the commission may wish to interpret the finding to be applicable to my council position at large, it is beyond the scope of the complaint as filed. I ask, therefore, that this commission vacate its earlier finding that I have used my position to keep from having to pay the beneficial assessment. Although it is clearly beyond the power of this commission to compel mayor and council to do so, I hope that by bringing the full facts to light will create the opportunity to have a fair and just hearing on the matter. Thank you for your time and attention. Attached with this is a usage chart of average daily use by quarter. the data through 2023 was provided to me by the city. The data for 2024 and the first quarter of 2025 came directly off of my utility bills. As you can see, the computed average for the 5-year span from 2020 through the first quarter of 2025, the average is 226.6 gallons per day, well under the 250 gallon per day EDU. Take out the year 2020 for the low occupancy due to COVID, that average comes to 237.4, still under the 250 gallons per day average, and that's even accounting for the fact that there was a very high use during 2 quarters, actually 3, where we had issues with running toilets. If you just correct the fourth quarter of 21 and the first quarter of 22 to the average of the other applicable quarters, then my average use comes down to 220 gallons per day. So I ask that reconsider the finding that I have used my position to thwart paying this EDU. And I realize that there's nothing that you can do from this hearing to compel that I get a fair hearing, but I would like it to be understood that to this point I have not had one.
And is it your position that, as a city councilman, that you did not know, despite the city clerk, the city attorney, and the city manager who put forth the documents for our meetings, that there was going to be a closed hearing, it was confidential, so we couldn't put your name or the complaints, the person who filed the ethical complaints name, but is it your position you didn't know that we were discussing your matter a couple months ago?
That's correct. No one told me. I mean, I have the documents, but no one informed me what meeting or that there was a meeting at which I would be that the matter would be discussed. You know, the only thing that I got was the finding.
And don't take this any way but the way I'm going to lay it out, because in my mind, I have to agree with you, because it was brought to the council some time back, and they could have vacated the bill, or whatever you want to call it, the invoice for the $12,000 at the time, and they chose to do nothing. And that's not anything for us to deal with. And in my mind, I don't see an ethics violation on his part if they chose inaction. I've been thinking about this for quite a while, and I just can't see where we can say it's an ethics violation, and you all can disagree, but believe me, it won't hurt my feelings in the least bit. But if he's tried to make this right, whether he sits on the council or not makes no difference at this point. And I agree with you, this has been going on since 2017.
Yes, sir.
Which was 5 years before he got elected to the council. If the city chose to do nothing in those 5 years, then why all of a sudden is it an issue? Because you got elected? I don't know. I mean,
There was a complaint by someone on the planning commission, right?
I don't know where the complaint, obviously, I have no idea where the complaint
but it
came
didn't
from,
come
sir.
in until after he came on the council, which was 5 years after this initial billing, or whatever you want to call it, the invoice, or whatever, was filed.
Oh, I get the procedural. And you cut the ribbon for the B&B in 2018,
Yes,
right?
sir, July 2018.
Yeah, so, I mean, and it does say in Chapter 16 that we're supposed to respond 2 years to resolve a matter of complaint. I think the complaint was summer of 2023, correct?
September, I think. But in fairness to mayor and council, part of the issue to me is what is in Attorney Gullo's letter to the commission, and what's on the written timeline that shows as Exhibit E, that states that we were over the EDU limit. And that frankly is incorrect. And so, you know, in fairness to council, the do-nothing said, well, if he's been using too much water, we shouldn't do anything about it. But the fact is that I've never gotten a fair hearing over how much water I actually use.
Well, I think the way to proceed at this point we could ask you to, everybody step out of the room so we can do a brief deliberation, and then you come back in and we'll give you our,
That's fine. And I have no problem if you need to close the hearing to do the deliberation at this point. I wanted my statement to be on the record and to get this information out there. Because
Definitely on the
there's
record.
been a lot of rumor and innuendo to the contrary, and I wanted that squelched.
is that acceptable, guys?
Yeah, I just want to ask a question
Yes,
of
sir.
the councilman. Do you think if you weren't on the city council, you weren't a current member, and you were from the general public running a business, that it would have been handled the same way, that this would have dragged on for 5 years?
It probably would have continued to drag on. I don't know. You know, I've had some discussions with the city manager about this, you know, in the last few weeks, and you know, the idea obviously was that somebody was trying to be nice and not, you know, help a local business starting up and not hit them with $13,000 worth of costs. You know, and so the issue having been raised this way certainly clouds the thinking to do that again at any point, which is unfortunate, because then that goes back to raising the specter that Taneytown is unfriendly to business. And, you know, the other point is that had I paid the EDU up front, I would certainly be back here now looking to get it back.
Well, I know that I had asked a question earlier about, the contract clearly says that you would pay this before you got your permit.
Yes.
And Jim explained that the contract was sort of a boilerplate and that was overlooked. So my sense, and I'm not an attorney, I'm an attorney's daughter, which makes me much more dangerous, is that it's been sloppy, and that you've asked and nobody has acted on your requests. So if I had paid that EDU, and I'd be here asking for it back too. But yeah, I tend to agree with Tony's thinking, and I agree with Steve. Just
I mean, the issue, you know, it certainly, it was a fair ask at the time, because I was adding, you know, 5 or 6 bathrooms. And, you know, we had no, in researching for today, I came across some emails where I actually went back to a national association of B&B owners and asked the question, does anybody know what the average use per guest room or per guest room night is? So that we could try to get a handle on what our usage would be. And that data simply didn't exist. So, you know, well, you know, you're adding all these bathrooms, you're probably gonna use a lot of water. So, but, you know, at this point, the question is, have I gotten fair treatment? And if I stand accused of using my position to try to not pay this, is that truly a fair statement in light of the fact that I have tried to resolve it?
Well, are we gonna,
So if you'd like us to leave, I'm perfectly happy to do
I
that
think-
now. I don't know
I
if you
think
need to close the session to deliberate and vote. But I do thank you for your time today, and thank you for allowing me to,
well, I mean, we would expect you to just step out and, you know, we'll
Okay.
confer, and then you can step back in. I'm not gonna close the meeting. This is still part of it.
thank you.
Okay, come up and identify yourself.
How's it going? Christopher Miller, 107 Trevanian Road. So again, this is nothing about whether procedure of office was used or anything like that, but as far as whether the EDU was confirmed by council or not as being owed, I do have to say, and city manager, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but council did confirm in November of 2024 that the EDU was owed. The request from the city attorney was that the council could either amend the public works agreement, which would be the way to say that it isn't owed, or they could do nothing, in which case the PWA, the public works agreement, stands firm and is owed. So council's silence is actually an affirmative that it is owed. That is the conclusion that we came to back in 2024. And again, that has nothing to do with whether procedure of office was used, but if the ask is whether the EDU is owed, and anything's being based on that, and whether council has said it is owed, council did state by not saying anything that that EDU was owed, and that was under attorney guidance, that we took the manner of not saying anything to indicate that it was owed. Jim, did I misspeak on any of that?
I think you've summarized accurately.
Well, I mean, once again, we're here to determine an ethical violation and not whether or not the, you know, the-
My only thing would be the statement that the council did inaction is not true. The action was the silence, which was affirming the PWA. The council doesn't have to say in a resolution or vocally that the PWA is still owed because it's a contractual agreement that's already there.
but as I understand it, Mr. Tillman has had this since 2017. We're in 2025 now. I mean, and then you say he's only been notified as of the 24th of November. Well, that has nothing whatsoever to do with the ethical violation.
Yeah, again, I'm just reaffirming that council did confirm that the PWA was owed. That's all I'm saying.
And it took, well, how many years to do that?
Well, that's
7
because,
years?
that's because it was requested to acknowledge whether it was owed or not. And again, the attorney basically said we can acknowledge that it's owed by not doing anything, or we can amend the PWA, in which case we can say that it isn't owed. Council didn't amend the PWA, in which case that indicates that the amount is owed.
So you're saying a failure to act is action?
A failure to act is action. Well, I should say the silence is the act. The failure,
Okay,
the
right,
failure
okay.
to amend, yeah. If the action is the amending to do away with it.
Yeah, but that's all irrelevant in terms of today's meeting.
Well, again, I'm just saying based on the idea of whether council just didn't do anything. No, council has confirmed, and actually the planning commission, I think there's minutes from 2020 where they actually confirmed the planning commission that the PWA was owed as well. So it's been.
EDU.
The EDU. Well, the PWA, yeah, is what owes the EDU. But yes, it has been confirmed multiple times. As far as the collection, I couldn't tell you what happened before I got in office, but I do know we have said it is owed.
Well,
And
but it's not, you don't dispute the fact that the agreement itself is inartfully worded.
if the idea is that it's just not owed because we haven't collected on it or it hasn't been paid, I guess you could say that, but we have acknowledged multiple times that this PWA is still owed. There was what was it? An escrow regarding it, but I don't know what happened with that. City manager, do you know what happened?
That has been closed.
Has been closed. So I don't know what happened there with the closure. That was before I came into office. But as far as whether the council has acknowledged whether the PWA is owed, because again, that's the only thing I'm addressing here. It's none of the other stuff. But if the ask is whether the council has acknowledged that the PWA is owed, or the EDU through the PWA, the answer is yes, we have acknowledged that. And I'm just clarifying that point. It isn't towards anything here. It's just to say that I just want to clarify on council's behalf that we have said it is owed. Don't take it as we haven't said it isn't owed.
And this has been carried as bad debt for all these years on the books?
I believe it, well,
It's classified as an open project, correct? It hasn't been closed?
it's been, right, the project is still open on the planning commission agenda.
And that's why it's on every agenda
Right.
For 8 years.
for 8 years.
And we carry, how long did we carry sheets? I mean, sheets was
They're-
carried for years. These projects are carried for years until we have recouped what we're asking for, or if they have finished the ask per the contracts that they've signed. So as long as that that contract remains until it has been contractually done. And that is why we have affirmed, I think multiple times at this point, that that PWA stands. And again, it was most recently affirmed as of November of 2024 that that PWA stands by council not amending it. That's all I'm saying here is that council has affirmed it. And there's no question of whether it's owed at this point on the city staff end. When I talked with Planning and Zoning, Darrell Hale, back before all of this, same thing, he acknowledged that it was owed. The city manager has acknowledged that it is owed. Council has acknowledged that it is owed. Everybody has acknowledged that it is owed. Just,
With all due respect, Mr. Mayor, everything you just said is completely irrelevant to this hearing.
the only thing that's relevant to is whether council has acknowledged is whether it's owed or not. Again, I don't care
And-
about the other stuff, but if you're gonna say that council has never acknowledged that it was owed, council has acknowledged that it was owed. And I don't,
And the inaction was based on information that they had, which apparently is faulty. And I have tried to raise this point, and nobody seems to want to give me a fair hearing about it.
and I don't, and I know you received the same emails that I've received, and I don't know if you understand the PWA the same way that I understand it for the requirement of the EDU, but the moment you go over that number, it's owed regardless.
So every citizen that comes in here with a huge water bill because they had a leak or a running faucet suddenly owes the city $12,900? Is that what you're
Well,
saying?
if their permit for owing it was contractually tied, then the argument would be yes, would it not? Because you have a contract saying that you've actually signed and agreed to it, that you are going to pay this upon opening your business.
If I could redirect us a little bit here, I think we're getting quite a bit off topic because the matter at hand isn't whether the benefit assessment fee was owed or not, but the question of whether Mr. Tillman used his office to influence. So with all due respect, Mr. Mayor, I think you've made your point about the council's
100% agree
silence
with
being
that.
action.
I just want to stay clear that council has acknowledged it.
Thank you.
I will stand corrected because obviously, to me, when I hear no action, that, in my mind, but the,
Do you want any discussion on this?
I just want to respond to one statement in his opening remarks that you read, because this is the third meeting in a row where the Ethics Commission is being called out for ethical breaches here. You wrote, "The commission has met," meaning this commission, "has met in closed session regarding the matter without informing me that such meeting was occurring and without providing for an opportunity to be heard at any time prior to this hearing." I mean, we were handed this item by the city attorney as an agenda item. We walked in here not knowing that this was going to be brought up here. So I don't know if it's this commission's responsibility to inform you of.
It may not be, sir. I was just simply pointing out the fact that I was not informed. And if I worded that clumsily to assume that that was on the commission, then I apologize for that, but that wasn't my intent. My intent is simply to say that this matter has been brought up, has been discussed in closed session, and I have not been afforded any opportunity to do what I was able to do here today.
Okay.
I don't.
From what I can see, I think I would make a motion to dismiss. That's absolutely correct.
so nothing, what happens between you and them on the EDU is between you and them. That's
Right. That's to be settled separately.
Vote?
Call for a vote?
Motion, yeah, I mean, I agree. Well, I mean, we voted all for, we all agree that this should be dismissed.
Yes.
I'm going to abstain.
Okay,
And a second? Linda?
I'll second.
Good. Motion carried.
Thank
Thank you
gentlemen.
very much for
And lady.
your time, and I wish you good luck with the rest of this.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Thank you all.
somewhere.
I think it was lost when we closed.
When,
Yeah, when we went to go closed, I
I
think.
suspect when initially it was going to be closed, that's
Can
when
we have a
feed
motion to
stopped.
adjourn?
Oh, I'll move to adjourn.
I'll second that.
Thank you.
Adjourned.
I don't think we need a vote on that one.
You're already halfway out the door.